Hi, this video follows on from my empowerment and revolution video. It's a very important video, this one. It's about equality, it's about dissociation, it's about society for all. Equality cures dissociation, but the state's superstructure is characterized by vast inequality, which is used and abused to control, to divide the masses. So you've got the state superstructure. It's got vast wealth and income at the top, vast wealth and income. It's got vast power. It spreads its propaganda around the world using the news media. It keeps you lot down. And it does that by dividing you, by using all the usual crap. You know, you've got terms like Labour, Republicans, Democrats, Tories, centre-right, left, all that crap. That's all just bollocks shit, right? That's bollocks shit. That's used to divide you lot. The real thing is that there's a top bottom. You see it with billionaires and you see it with poor people and lots of people near the bottom, and then thinking, how the hell can we hold up this injustice? And they do it by poisoning, by agenda setting. And when they agenda set, they repeat it until it gets into your bloody head, so that it divides you against other people who are like you. Not that they have absolute success, but they have enough success to maintain this propaganda science forever. Or, you know what I mean? Just go on and on and on and on. If I had to create a society, a system, where the instruction was create a society which is a propaganda matrix, I'd make it exactly like this. Exactly. Now, if it wasn't a propaganda matrix, if it was just all nice and everything, you wouldn't be able to see all the bloody holes everywhere in it. It would just be too equal and too obviously not propaganda at all. So it's self-explanatory, in other words. But you have to be able to see through the constant propaganda science being applied against you. So, for example, there's all kinds of things. For example, they emit stuff that doesn't suit the power elite. They don't agenda set on stuff that will harm themselves ever, because if they did, it would harm themselves, and they don't want that. So when the agenda set on stuff like culture was, they know that, we don't really care about that, and they let them think that the masses and the plebs think that they've got free speech from this, and none of it really going to harm us too much. So therefore, they wouldn't agenda set on, is the state superstructure a bad idea? because although you get that's what's discussed in the universities or whatever, or it's discussed, or people maybe in pubs go on about not liking the elites, you're not going to get them questioning the foundations about their comfort, wealth, and power. Why not? Ask yourself, why not? Why aren't they willing to talk about that? Why is that cancelled for 150 years and cancelled for another next 150 years? When we talk about cancel culture, don't talk about something that's just here today, gone tomorrow. Talk about the powerful that's existed forever. They won't ask that question because they want extreme power. So it's not like, we'll talk about it some point in the future. You won't. They're the snowflakes. You want snowflakes? Talk about people who cancel stuff for centuries. That is real massive cancel culture. That is extreme cancel culture. It's such a cancel culture, people don't know that it's been cancelled because it is so well cancelled. The state superstructure will not talk about stuff that harms their own power. No power elite has ever voluntarily given up power. That is cancel culture. That is cancel culture, because that's thousands of years. So let's get this straight. Let's get this straight. When we're talking about cancel culture, don't look at the weak, look at the strong. State superstructure wants inequality to maintain division. The inequality they preside over is up there with the most in human history. We're talking about a society like America saying it cannot afford to look after its people. when the top 26 billionaires in the world have as much wealth and income as the bottom 3.4 billion people in the world. And America has billionaires. So let's cut the crap. There is no excuse for America not to look after its poor. That is bullshit on top of 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 bullshit. But don't get me wrong, they will never stop saying that they cannot afford to look after the poor. That is their lie. It's their lie to maintain the extreme power, income, and wealth inequality that serves them so damned well. There's as much chance, it's about as difficult anyway, to get income and wealth equality out of the state superstructure as it is to get an equal voice out of the state superstructure, because they're connected. They've got that vast news media that they want to hoard. So they've got the huge voice to pump out there. Right. And what does all this inequality do? It creates strife. It creates suicides when it comes to money issues. It creates potential wars, potential nuclear holocaust. It could not get any shitter than death. And that is the point where we're at now. We're trying. It's like they're trying to destroy the world through war, through burning it to death, and through getting people to kill themselves. We could not get more shit than this. The elite, by wanting to look after themselves so much, are destroying humans and potentially whole bloody planet. So when the elites try to throw that next silly thing out there, well, we'll see if you could do any better than a Holocaust of the entire Earth. Say, well, obviously you can't have double death, you dick. So, don't listen to that. It's another stupid thing they put out there because of their failures, not because of their successes. They can't claim success, so they try to look at you. That's what they're doing. And it's so see-through. It's so see-through. They think you can't see it, but we can. We cannot do worse than potentially nuking the whole bloody planet, okay? That is impossible to do worse than that. And that's what they've led us to at the moment. They've led us to a world where humans might just end themselves completely. So no, not just some people who are poor because of their vast inequality of income and wealth might top themselves and at least say we can live with that. They might nuke everyone. Just get rid of humans. So that is how bad they've done. So there's no need to worry about that. We can now from this absolute, imagine a mass field and all you can see in the field is piles of shit, literally piles of shit. You can't see any grass or anything or any concrete. It's just literally full of shit. Like, we cannot do worse than that. It's just, that is how bad it is. So therefore we start from this ground zero, this absolute field of shite, and we just need to work from that, thinking we can't really go wrong. And we're not looking for a society of inequality. We're not going to. I don't advocate going in there and taking the megaphones and thinking we're the supreme, superior, wonderful, amazing gift to humanity, while then basically presiding over the same vast inequalities they did. What would be the point of that? It's the vast inequality that destroys everything. Because once people see through the propaganda matrix, once they see through that science of propaganda, once they see through the elites are just looking after themselves and just throwing you crumbs of ability to speak, you mean you can reach 6 people, whereas in 30 years ago you couldn't. That sort of thing, while they're reaching like millions. and where they've got bags of gold and you've got stress about what your bank statement or bank balance will look like, that is not what we're for. We're not going for that. We're not going to take over that and say we're having all that. We will decline it. So, for example, I said in the last video, I was distinguishing myself from the idiots that in the States that were trying to destroy the national news media by bombing them. But I said that nevertheless we would agree that we need to get rid of the news media, but we do it by anti-monopoly laws. It's very strict ones with severe teeth, so that it's all small and competitive, and no one's got this megaphone that can drown out everyone else. It's so obvious that this is what makes society bad. And it's the same with the wealth and income stuff. We're not looking to have vast inequality because that gives all the same strife as well. What is it that the bloody far right, for instance, always say they take advantage of? They take advantage of all the poor and weak, and that by saying to them, by they pour poison into it by saying, blaming other demographics. While some of the far right also say well, get your bread and all this stuff. So they do the left wing thing, but they do the far right thing, which makes a mess of it all. You know what I mean? They're trying to take advantage of existing prejudices that have existed because of the state superstructure, while also throwing them bread so that they can, so that the far right politicians definitely get the success, because they don't have the struggle of having to educate them on their base prejudices. They just say, you want money and you don't like them much over there. Not we. So you see how they do it. You see, that's one advantage the far right have over the left. In terms of, if you're just wanting to get everyone together and just be human beings, then you've got to deal with some of the existing bloody poisonous stuff that's come down from this top bottom reality. The top bottom is real. That is real. That is absolutely real. It's absolutely insane to deny that, because you can see the vast inequality of voice and of income and wealth and of power and so forth. All these terms that come along with it, left, right, I just mentioned there, Labour, Republican, Democrat, Tory, all that needs to go, because it's poisonous. It's used for poison. It might not be poisonous to some innocent person, but it's used as poison, so it needs to go. It's labeling, used to maintain power and control. That's what it's for. Used to maintain power and control at the top. It's used and abused by dividing us, and then that division means those at the top are not threatened. Simultaneously, they use culture wars to do this, safe in the knowledge that the division benefits themselves as opposed to threatening themselves. If it threatened them, they wouldn't use it at all. Indeed, emissions is one of the propaganda matrix and state superstructures strategies. Emissions is they don't say anything about stuff that would threaten them. When the propagandists' agenda set, they make sure it harms people, but not themselves. Simultaneously, when they use it, it doesn't harm them. Yeah, they're just always making sure that their agenda setting doesn't harm the state superstructure. It's always to harm us. Now, this vast inequality means that people are getting dissociated all over the place. We need a society where people make contribution. Their contribution is their sense of self. Those that are unable to contribute because they've got some understandable neurosis, for example, we don't leave them to rot and just to like die a death and then get judged while they're doing it. You know? We look after the weakest in society, so that this sense of self doesn't come from money. It comes from your contribution. So say you're an author of short stories. You write a short story. You might think, oh, I don't like that, what I've written there. I've wasted my time and effort. Can't stop that sense of deflation. But they also might think it's okay. Or they might think, oh, I like this, what I've written here. And that satisfaction, that sense of self comes from their own efforts. But once you bringing money into it, and everything's got to be differential, got to have more than that one who does that because they're doing a little bit lesser job or whatever, and they're doing a better job, and now we've got to all have this differential of money. I think that superiority, inferiority comes into it, and it's very easy for the state superstructure to poison that, very easy indeed, especially given that they're so obsessed with a science of propaganda used for their own power and control. This is ideal kind of money is a differential, so an ideal kind of world that they're living in that they can really use and abuse for their own power against us by setting people against people. And it's sheer poison. It's absolute poison. It just goes on and 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 on. And people are starting to see through it, thank goodness. I hope that the state collapses completely because it's disgusting and we can't do any worse than the neglect. We've got states in the US where charities from European nations go over to give them healthcare. And the state says we can't afford healthcare. That's why we haven't got it. So bollocks, a bollocks, a bollocks, a bollocks, a bollocks. They are lying. They can afford healthcare. We know that because they are not poorer than European societies, Western Europeans, and they are not poorer. They are billionaires, like I said before. They could afford it. They could afford. A few people could afford to give everyone it. That's how I see that. You've got. I think isn't there even a trillionaire in the US? I mean, goodness sake. You despair at the bullshit that comes from the propaganda matrix once you've seen through it. But they'll keep saying it just because despair and see through it. Just because it's obvious to you, just because it's as obvious as rain's hitting your head when rain's hitting your head. It doesn't mean to say they'll stop saying it. They'll still put the suit on and say, the United States of America cannot afford universal health care. It would be bankrupt by the communism of it all. Bullshit! I said that in Britain in 1940s. A society for all gets rid of that propaganda. Listen, say that again. A society for all gets rid of that propaganda because a society for all doesn't deal with propaganda. A society for all cures dissociation, psychosocial dissociation, because this division that they're constantly put out there, right? It's science, so don't think that I'm meaning it doesn't have any success. I think it sustains the state superstructure for 150 odd years, and roughly, right? So don't think I think it doesn't have success. It does. Now, one of the things it's successful on, which is key, they put this shit out there, then the public think they've got free speech, and they think that the dissociations are just their little arguments. Come from the top. The dissociations are all that poison I've been going on about, splitting people, one against the other, for no proper good reason, except that it'll benefit the most wealthy and powerful in society to make the plebs think that they've got free speech and influence. it's such an abuse of power, and it is normalized as much as oxygen is normalized. It's disgraceful. Without this vast inequality in everything, we could get rid of psychosocial dissociation. Now, people still have their views. So take universal basic income, for example. If I'm online and I'm debating universal basic income with an intelligent person, I don't think, oh no, you're dissociating me. I don't think like that. What I think happens when debating with someone who's parroting the state superstructure is that a whole load of prejudices are thrown in your face. Just like the NHS thing or universal healthcare thing. You know, United States can't afford universal healthcare. But United States cannot afford universal basic income. You see what I mean? So like, and it's like let's cancel that issue from the off. Like I say, because we can't afford it. Because bug off. If you go into a shop, you think, oh, we're going to buy that, but can't afford it. You walk out the shop. They're not debating. What they're doing is cancelling, and they've cancelled every issue that threatens themselves since the year dot. That is their emission strategy. Their emission strategy is don't ever discuss anything that harms our power, and they think that these things do. They're pathetic, absolutely pathetic. The only issue on UBI is bloody don't cause in one go, you cause inflation. I agree with that. I don't say there's absolutely zero. Well, state superstructure and propaganda matrix is overwhelmingly abusive and uses stuff for their own benefit. And obviously, occasionally, there's something that actually is conveniently true. So inflation is real, you know what I mean? But that doesn't mean to say that you should think that anything other than it's basically just a field of shit. And that's the one thing I think I wouldn't bring UBI in one go. But I definitely do not care about all this money differentials anymore. The merit issue, that is the sense of self you get from your contribution. So you might have money and still not have a good sense of self because you're not contributing much. Or you might not have much money and you're not getting a good sense of self because you're not contributing much. And also, of course, in this shit world we're in, because money matters because the state superstructure makes sure it bloody does. But in what I mean is in a society that was equal, your sense of self would still come from your own contribution. So I admit that some people would still not be doing very well. That's just a fact of life. But it wouldn't be state superstructure exploiting them. They wouldn't. So, for instance, we wouldn't be kicking sand in the face at the same time saying, "Oh, keep down there, you bloody lazy bastard." You know, we wouldn't be like that. We're not twats. We look the way you treat the weakest in society, whether you see that in terms of people or in terms of animals, is a good way to look at what the society is like. You know, and the way that we treat the weakest in society in terms of people is, well, we show them our ass, basically. And the finger, unfortunately. I mean, I don't think we should, but that's how it is. So the Society for All ends dissociation. It's psychosocial equality we're trying for here. And it ends the propaganda now. So our Society for All would hold inquiries into the propaganda matrix, which we might word as the science of propaganda, so that people could get educated on how they've been used and abused, using all these terms to do so, to get in their heads, so that they're kept down, so the status quo maintained. The people at the very top, right at the top there, are maintained as at the top forever. They must want to continue it on. So to educate the public and all of that, or to educate them on. Now, this might be the same inquiry, or it could be a separate one. how the news media is that propaganda tool to get out to millions of people. I would obviously, if we got into power, we'd make sure that we were curtailed by severe anti-monopoly laws, so that news media was small and competitive, and no one had megaphones to like drown out everyone else. Like we're not Nazi enablers like the way it is at the moment. Just think, Hitler wouldn't do what I'm saying, would he? He'd think, well, we need them megaphones that Britain has now. How is a bloody far-right Nazi lot that wants to kill everyone meant to get the message across? That's what they'd think. We're not like that. We don't want those enabler of Nazi megaphones. We get rid of them. Local news is fine. So yeah, we'd educate the public and all of that, how that's all used and abused in order to maintain that power at the top and enable Nazis or whatever. While you lot, well, you can reach 6 people now online, can't you? Isn't that freedom of speech? Well, hang on a minute, you lot can reach like millions. Oh, well, tough. Just see my finger and my ass. That's all they ever said. Never. They don't want to discuss that. You see, when I was saying about agenda setting and emissions, that's an emission. Could you imagine the state superstructure saying, let's hold this, get this on the agenda, repeat it every day. Let's imagine, is the state superstructure a good thing, or do we have too much power compared to you? Let's compare and contrast and have tables up there and how many people you can reach and how many they can reach and the difference in income and wealth and profits and everything. Yeah, I think that they'll think, well, admit that forever, mate. Cancelled. Yeah, that's what it is. So, this is what I call, if you think I'm enthusiastic, it's because this is seeing through the whole damn shit show. Who can trust a bloody word that comes out of people's mouths that exist to maintain their own power by dividing you lot against one another? Now, our end of the state superstructure and end of the propaganda matrix would end that splitting in the mind between you and the others, because we'll get rid of all them terms, labels, get rid of all them things that are used to divide you all against one another. It'd be a contribution society, and it wouldn't be absolutely perfect, because there'd be people whose contributions, and for whatever reason, were not that good, but wouldn't be judging them. They'd just be judging themselves, because people can't. If I try to do something, I don't do a good job of it, I do judge myself a bit. I didn't do too good there. But at other times, you'll get a sense of self from when you do something that you think is creative and worked out okay. That's the sense of self. That's what we need. Not all this stuff that maintains power and control. I think I've got my point across. We want a society for all, built on contribution. We want to stop dividing ourselves against one another. We want to work together as people, not as labels or terms. So all that crap where everyone's divided against one another, that's state superstructure stuff. Whenever they say it, immediately clamp down on it. I read an article by Caitlin Johnston the other day, and she's like saying, be that jerk in the cinema who keeps shouting, they're all actors, it's not real during the movie, because that's what this is. They're all bloody playing a game. So shout them down straight away whenever they try to divide. Whenever they try to divide, shout them down. You're trying to divide. We're not having it anymore. You're trying to divide. We're not having it anymore. As soon as they start talking again, you're trying to divide. We're not having it anymore. And when they start up again, they say, you're just trying to divide us. We're not having it anymore. We're all people. That's the video. I like that one. It's called Seeing Through the Shitheads and Their System. Yay.